Welcome back to the world of competitive Pokemon. The last video was all about stats, so now it's time to battle. Like I said last time, I'll be focusing on the official competitive format called the VGC, which means we'll be talking about double battles. There are quite a few moves, abilities, items, and general strategies to consider in double battles that you rarely use in singles. There's a lot of depth to what you can do with 4 Pokemon on the field at once, which is why I find doubles so exciting. Competitive Pokemon is about planning and executing your own strategy while predicting and disrupting your opponents. The more you battle, the more you'll be able to look at a team in Team Preview and get an idea of what your opponent's strategy might be. The goal of this video is to give you the foundation you need to be able to learn something with every battle, win or lose, so these are the big picture strategies you need to know about. I didn't talk about abilities in the stat video, so in short, every Pokemon has one ability, and each species of Pokemon can have between 1 and 3 abilities, most of which have some kind of effect in battle. For example, my competitive Dragapult from the last video has the ability Clear Body, while the non-competitive one has Infiltrator instead. A lot of popular strategies incorporate abilities in some way or another, so I'll be talking about different abilities and their effects throughout the video. But to start, I do have to talk about stats just a little bit more. Last time, I said that understanding stats will help you understand everything else about competitive Pokemon. That's partially because manipulating Pokemon stats in battle is a major overall strategy with a lot of layers. You can lower opposing Pokemon stats, increase the stats of your own Pokemon, and generally mess with stats during a battle using abilities, moves, weather, and items. This will get more exciting in a second, I promise, but first, some jargon. Raising or lowering a stat in battle comes in what's called stages. You'll get text like Charizard's special attack fell or Swinub's special defense rose sharply to indicate the change. If it just says rose or fell, that means the stat was changed by 1 stage, while if it says rose sharply or harshly fell, that means the stat was changed by 2 stages. You can change a stat by 6 stages in either direction, and everything goes back to 0 when a Pokemon switches out of the battle. You can track what stage each Pokemon is in for every stat by pressing Y during a battle. For those who are interested in the math, each stage above 0 represents 50% increments. So if a move raises a Pokemon's special defense stat by 2 stages, that means its special defense has been doubled from its starting value, and you'll see that referred to as +2 special defense. At -2, a stat is reduced to half of its original value, but the drops after that get smaller and smaller and cap out at 1/4 of the original value at stage -6. Moves like Haze and Clear Smog can reset stat stages, and because switching out also has that effect, you can use moves like Dragon Tail and Roar to force your opponents out if they're trying to set up a boosted onslaught. You'll see stat stages and changes in tons of strategies. So that brings us to speed control. It probably goes without saying, but moving first in a battle is usually preferable. There are a number of ways to manipulate speed on the field, and most VGC teams will have one or more of them. You're likely used to the idea that faster Pokemon move first in a battle, but turn order is actually more dependent on a hidden factor called priority. All moves are sorted into a priority bracket that looks like this. Turn order is determined first by what priority bracket the move is in, then by each Pokemon's speed stat. So if one Pokemon on the field uses Helping Hand, that will always go first because it's the highest priority move. But if 2 Pokemon use Helping Hand in the same turn, the faster one will use it first. You can use priority to your advantage by using a move like Quick Attack to knock out a weakened Pokemon before it can attack you, for example. For non-damaging support moves, the ability Prankster is especially popular because it increases all status moves by 1 priority bracket. On that note, one of the most common methods of speed control is the move Tailwind, which increases speed on your side of the field by 2 stages and lasts 4 turns. Whimsicott is largely considered the best Tailwind setter thanks to the Prankster ability. It can set up Tailwind before other faster Pokemon have a chance to move. Because speed and turn order are recalculated as changes happen, this means Whimsicott's partner can also outspeed those Pokemon right away. If you see a Whimsicott in Team Preview, you can bet that it knows Tailwind. Alternatively, you can also Dynamax a Pokemon that knows a Flying-type move to get Max Airstream, which increases the speed of both of your Pokemon by 1 stage and does a good amount of damage on top of that. This only applies to the Pokemon currently out on the field when you use it though, while Tailwind applies to all your Pokemon as long as it's active. You can also just paralyze your opponent to cut its speed stat in half. Grimmsnarl with the Prankster ability can use Thunder Wave to paralyze fast opponents like Dragapult before they can move, for example. By the way, if you're worried about prankster Pokemon setting up these strategies or any others before you can even move, you can try the move Fake Out, which only works on the first turn a Pokemon is in battle, but causes the target to flinch and waste its turn. Fake Out has a higher priority than every prankster boosted status move that Whimsicott and Grimmsnarl can learn, so you can fake them out and then KO them with a powerful Pokemon before they can gain any momentum. Dark-type Pokemon are also immune to prankster boosted moves, which is handy. Lastly, there's the move Trick Room, which reverses turn order within each priority bracket. That means Helping Hand will still go first, but if 2 Pokemon use it, the slower one will use it first instead. Trick Room itself has the lowest priority of any move, and although it lasts for 5 turns, the first turn you use it counts, so essentially you have 4 turns at a time to let your slower Pokemon shine. For hard Trick Room teams, players will often breed their Pokemon with a speed IV of 0 and natures that hinder speed to help ensure their Pokemon are as slow as possible. Common Trick Room users include Gothitelle, Dusclops, Hatterene, and Mimikyu, and strong Trick Room Pokemon include Rhyperior, Torkoal, and Conkeldurr, though all you really need to be sure of is that your Pokemon are slower than your opponents, and mixed or more flexible Trick Room teams are also worth trying. Some Pokemon are just really strong attackers, and that is often very scary. Fully offensive Pokemon want to be in a position where they can sweep your team with ease, so your job is to not let that happen. Intimidate is an incredibly important ability for this. It activates whenever the Pokemon with Intimidate is sent into battle and lowers both opponents' attack by 1 stage. You can also burn a physical attacker, which will reduce its attack by 50%. Just beware of Pokemon with the abilities Defiant or Competitive, which raise attack or special attack respectively by 2 stages when the Pokemon stats are lowered. Players will use teammates like Braviary or Melodic to discourage Intimidates. If the opponent is a special attacker instead, you can use the move Snarl to lower both opponents' special attack by 1 stage. Arcanine can have Intimidate and learn Snarl, and on top of that, it can also learn Will-O-Wisp, which burns the target. I really like using Arcanine as a support Pokemon since it's so versatile, so long as I can be sure the Intimidate won't screw me over. Also, a lot of really strong Pokemon will have lower speed, so preventing Trick Room or countering it with your own Trick Room can save you, as can preventing other forms of speed control like Tailwind. Offensive Pokemon are usually not as defensive too, so you can counter them with your own hard-hitting Pokemon. Just make sure you check whether the Pokemon is more physically defensive or specially defensive. You'll have a much easier time taking down Snorlax with physical attacks, for example. This is a quick one, but it's important to know about. Some moves and abilities can redirect moves away from the intended target. A big one is Follow Me, which you'll often see on Togekiss and female Indeedee. Even if you targeted the other Pokemon, the move will hit the Follow Me user. The move Rage Powder, which you might see on Butterfree, works the same way. The ability Lightning Rod will redirect an electric-type attack and boost the Pokemon's special attack, while Storm Drain does the same for water-type moves. And the move Ally Switch will cause 2 partner Pokemon to change places, which means that a move targeting one Pokemon will end up hitting the other. Duraludon's Stalwart ability ignores all redirection moves to hit the intended target, so it's a powerful counter to these strategies. You can also get around it by using a spread move like Hyper Voice or Rock Slide to hit both opponents at once. One of the best moves in the VGC is Protect. Pretty much every Pokemon can learn it, and it's a valuable tool in lots of different situations. You can protect to stall, like when you're waiting for Trick Room to expire, or if you think your opponent might double target one of your Pokemon with both of theirs, leaving your other Pokemon open to attack. There are variations on Protect too, including a handy move called Wide Guard that protects a team from spread moves specifically. Switching your Pokemon out of battle is also a viable strategy. You can switch an Intimidate user out so they can live to Intimidate later on, for example, or switch to a Pokemon that resists attacks you're anticipating to put yourself in a better position for the next turn. The ability Shadow Tag, which you'll see on Gothitelle, prevents opponents from switching out, but Ghost types are immune. Every competitive Pokemon needs a held item, and while there's a lot of held items out there, these are some of the ones you'll see most often. The Focus Sash prevents a Pokemon from being knocked out in one hit from full HP. You'll see this on fragile Pokemon like Whimsicott, Hatterene, and Chandelure, who have to survive at least one turn to do their main job. There's a variety of berries your Pokemon can eat during a battle. Pinch berries will activate when your Pokemon's HP gets low and heals them, while another class of rare berries will reduce the damage taken from one super effective move. Togekiss, for example, will often hold a Babiri berry, which helps it survive one Steel-type attack. When a Pokemon holding Weakness Policy is hit by a super effective move, its attack and special attack go up by 2 stages. Offensive Pokemon that can survive at least one hit, like Rhyperior, Duraludon, and offensive Togekiss sets, will frequently have this, and you can even attack your own weakness policy Pokemon to trigger it. There are 3 choice items, each of which boosts a stat by 50% but locks the holder into the first move it used in the battle. Choice Band increases attack, Choice Specs increases special attack, and Choice Scarf increases speed. The move you're locked into will reset when you switch out of battle or while you're Dynamaxed. Life Orb increases the power of the holder's attacks, but each time it uses a damaging move, it loses a bit of HP. The Flame Orb burns its holder after a turn. This is actually good for Pokemon with the ability Guts, which increases their attack stat when they have a status condition. If you're worried about an opponent's item making your life hard, you can use the move Knock Off to get rid of it, or the moves Trick and Switcheroo, which will switch your held item with the target's. Weather is a long-standing strategy in competitive Pokemon, and you'll see weather changes in lots of battles because weather strategies incorporate everything from speed control and abilities to attack power and defensive maneuvers. The idea is to set up weather to give your team an advantage. You can change the weather using moves like Sunny Day or Rain Dance, but one strategy is to include a Pokemon on your team with an ability that triggers weather instead. If 2 Pokemon with weather-setting abilities come out on the field at the same time, the faster one's weather will be overwritten by the slower one's, which will trigger second. Take Tyranitar, for example. With the ability Sandstream, it can set up a Sandstorm for 5 turns, and because Sandstorms increase the special defense of Rock-type Pokemon by 50%, this helps Tyranitar take hits from powerful special attackers. But Tyranitar is faster than Torkoal, which is usually bred to have minimum speed for Trick Room, and can set up Harsh Sunlight with the Drought ability. So if your opponent has a Torkoal, don't lead with Tyranitar. Switch it in on turn 1 instead to overwrite the weather and save yourself from Sun-boosted Fire-type attacks. This will also help a partner like Melodic actually do damage, since Sun reduces the power of Water-type attacks by 50%. There's also abilities that can take advantage of weather, and you'll frequently see duos or even entire teams based around a certain weather condition. Excadrill can have the ability Sand Rush, which increases its speed in a sandstorm. Players using this strategy will try to lead with Tyranitar and Excadrill so Excadrill can sweep with its boosted speed in the sandstorm, and then the rest of the team is usually more balanced. Then there are full weather teams where the whole team is geared around the desired weather. This includes the sample rain team you can rent from the Battle Tower if you're curious and want to try it out. On that team, Pelipper is the rain setter using the ability Drizzle, plus it can learn Tailwind. 3 of the Pokemon have the ability Swift Swim, which increases speed in rain. Raichu's Lightning Rod ability protects its partners from electric-type attacks by redirecting and absorbing them, and the normally low-accuracy Thunder hits consistently in rain. Even Ferrothorn benefits because it has a 4 times weakness to fire, and rain decreases the power of Fire-type moves by 50%. You can also change the weather using certain max moves, which I'll get to in a bit. Before we talk about Dynamaxing more, I have to mention terrain. It's separate from weather and affects only the Pokemon on the ground, so basically every Pokemon except flying types and ones with the ability Levitate. Like weather, terrain can be triggered by some abilities, their corresponding moves, or certain max moves. There are 4 types: Electric, Misty, Grassy, and Psychic. In addition to affecting some move types, each one has an additional bonus that can be really helpful. Electric terrain prevents sleep, Misty terrain prevents burn, paralysis, poison, freezing, and sleep, as well as confusion. Psychic prevents Pokemon from being hit by priority moves, and Grassy heals all Pokemon on the ground a bit each turn it's active. You'll often see Indeedee with the ability Psychic Surge paired with Hatterene, so Hatterene can safely set up Trick Room. Psychic terrain protects Hatterene from Fake Out, and Indeedee's Follow Me then helps prevent it from getting KO'd. Finally, let's talk about Dynamaxing. It's definitely an intimidating mechanic that almost seems OP at first, but when you break it down, there are basically 3 reasons you'd want to Dynamax. The first is to do big damage. Max moves are super powerful, and in the hands of a strong attacker like Durant, they can one-hit KO Pokemon if your opponent isn't prepared. The second is to trigger stat changes, weather, or terrain. Max Wormwind reduces your opponent's attack, while Max Starfall triggers Misty Terrain, for example. And the third is to increase your overall bulkiness. Dynamaxing is the only thing that can increase your total HP in a battle, and it can make defensive Pokemon like Melodic even harder to take down in a pinch. You can do all of these things at once, too. Durant is an incredible Dynamax candidate because of its sheer power and speed, and also its move pool. This one knows Steel, Rock, and Ground-type moves. Max Rockfall will trigger a Sandstorm if needed, while Max Steel Spike boosts your defense, and Max Quake boosts special defense. This helps Durant live through its 3 Dynamax turns in tandem with the HP boost, although Durant's special defense is pretty bad, so it's better to knock out special attackers. The stat boosts also really help Durant's partner as the battle wears on by making it harder to take down. That's just one example of a good Dynamax choice, and it's definitely a mechanic that will shift over time. The best way to really get a sense of good Dynamax strategies and battle strategies in general is to just practice. You'll see what other people are doing, and you'll figure out over time what does and doesn't work about the teams you use. While battling online, you will often have the chance to view your opponent's team after the battle, which I highly recommend. This can expose you to items, abilities, or moves you didn't know about, as well as the kinds of sets people run on certain Pokemon. I also really recommend using rental teams made by experienced players so you can start battling right away, getting experience, and then moving on to breeding, which is why breeding and training is the next video. You can find great rental teams on Victory Road VGC and Trainer Tower, sometimes with full breakdowns and explanations by the team's creator. As always, please reach out to me in the comments or on Twitter with any questions. Stay tuned for the next video all about breeding and training, and thanks for watching!